So with Polkadot reaching an all-time low again, because now it's back at $1.13, with that, a lot of people have been asking me, is this bad? Because they say, we saw Polkadot 2.0. That was such a big upgrade. They say that we saw the tokenomics basically become clarified, right? They confirmed that 2.1 billion was going to be the maximum supply when it comes to DOT, which is Polkadot's native token. Why, despite all that, why is Polkadot back at its all-time low yet again? This is a big concern for some people, but it's not necessarily a concern for me, and I'm still a fan of this project, and I'll give my rationale in today's video, even though I am not telling anyone to do anything. This is just my personal perspective, and nothing I say is financial advice. So first of all, it may seem very counterintuitive that a project that I'm a fan of just recently reached its all-time low again, which may seem very embarrassing. Some people like to say this is really bad, but we have to consider Polkadot 2.0, even though it was a massive upgrade, and even though clarifying the tokenomics in a sense where 2.1 billion was confirmed to be the maximum supply, even though those things are really amazing, this space does not operate in the same way that stocks do. Like for instance, case in point, if let's say there is a big company out there, or just any publicly listed company, let's say, if they launch a new product and it's pretty good, or let's say they have good revenue, or whatever the case may be, let's say their net income is looking really fantastic, it's oftentimes, in some cases, reflected upon the stock price. But if we take a look at it when it comes to the space, it doesn't really operate that way, in a sense where if Bitcoin isn't doing good, if the space isn't doing good, it doesn't even really matter what Polkadot does. It's still just not going to do good. That's it. That's just how it works sometimes within this space, which may seem kind of alarming, but that's just how the space is. It's like, for instance, if I run a marathon, I can't complain that it's taking too long. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. This space is just a little bit different. So when people like to say, oh, Polkadot, they must be doing something wrong. Well, they're not really, right? I mean, if we take a look at Polkadot 2.0, having an aspect of elastic scaling when it comes to that, that's really amazing. And especially that's going to help developers moving forward. Not to mention clarifying the tokenomics in the sense where the maximum supply was confirmed to be 2.1 billion. That's a big victory. That gives more certainty when it comes to the potential inflation moving forward. So I don't see what they did that's so bad. It's just the market isn't doing the best. Bitcoin isn't doing good, Ethereum isn't doing good, but this is also not doing good. Polkadot is no stranger to this. It's not like the whole market is popping and suddenly Polkadot's the only one going down, and that's not the case. The reason why I don't mind being in this space anyways, despite the drawbacks basically, is because sure, this space can be very volatile. But at the same time, within this space, what goes down quickly could also reverse quickly, in a sense where up or down, things move very quickly in either direction, which may seem kind of, I guess, not such a good thing if we take a look at it, let's say in the case of, gold, or let's say the S&P 500. Again, that may seem like very bizarre, but that's just the nature of this space. Yes, sure, things could go down very quickly, but if the market recovers, we see sometimes just how rapid the hypothetical recovery is. It doesn't mean that it's always going to happen that way, but that's just typically how it kind of works. So that's kind of the aspect of this space that sometimes people do prefer. Like some people out there prefer a little bit more stability, in which case they care about maybe the S&P 500 or gold or something like that. But this space is a little bit different. You know what I mean? Even something that's considered the most stable, like in the case of Bitcoin, even that had a pullback very recently. And the major reason why, I think, is not only just because the market was doing not so good. A major reason why, I think, is because MicroStrategy sold a couple $1,000,000 worth of Bitcoin despite still holding many billions worth of Bitcoin. Even just that in and of itself was able to affect Bitcoin in that type of way, which is kind of bizarre, right? Now, this is not so surprising because Michael Saylor, he has this vibe where he doesn't want to sell Bitcoin and whatnot. So seeing MicroStrategy sell their Bitcoin for the first ever time in years, that's a little bit concerning and a little bit alarming to some people. And again, this space is not a place where I would want to be if I care about stability, in a sense where even the quote-unquote most stable project, which a lot of people would consider Bitcoin is, having a lot of ETFs and stuff like that, even despite that, MicroStrategy selling a couple $1,000,000 worth of Bitcoin could affect something that's supposed to be stable like that quickly. Yeah, again, this space is not stable by any means, in my opinion. That's just the way I take a look at it. Even some stable coins out there fail. You know, like this is not a space where I would care about stability. But that's kind of part of it. That's kind of the nature of this space, in my opinion. Some people may not like it, some people do. It depends. I can't tell anyone to do anything. I'm just speaking on my personal behalf. But if I cared about stability, I would not be in this space. But I also care about the hypothetical movement if maybe the market were to take off. So again, there's pros and cons. I'm not telling anyone to do anything, but there's a reason why I'm in this space and not in a different space. But again, that is just personally for me. And especially if I take a look at something like Polkadot, okay, again, it may seem a little bit alarming that it's back at $1.13, which I just want to clarify, it is its all-time low historically. But what I find so bizarre is this. So if we take a look at Polkadot in its entire history, right, of its existence, basically, if we take a look at the existence of DOT as a token, if we go off of this being the all-time low, that means it's literally the lowest it's ever been in history, or in its history, I should say. Which, is that a bad thing? Well, it depends, because we got to think about this. Did you know that its all-time high is $55? Like, what the? That's kind of ridiculous, right? So we're clearly over 40 times lower than its all-time high. And keep in mind as well, this means that we are lower than levels in 2020 when it comes to DOT. It really is, because this is its all-time low. You know what I mean? Like, this is literally meaning that it's the lowest it's ever been in its history. Could you imagine? I'm able to dollar cost average in this year, in 2026, lower than 2020 levels? Is that a bad thing? Well, it depends who you ask, right? Some people out there care about the dip. Some people out there don't like it. It really depends. But I don't mind the dip, because my mindset is dollar cost averaging in a sense where if things are low, preferably that's when I would like it the best. And not only is this low, this is literally at its all-time low. You know what I mean? Like, okay, sure. Am I going to believe 100% in this as of right now? No. I'm still dollar cost averaging once a month, but I'm just saying, this is its all-time low. Could it ever recover? We'll wait and see. But one thing I do know, though, is that its all-time high is $55. Not to mention, even if we take a look at DOT not that long ago, like let's say we take a look at DOT back in October of 2025, it was around $4.50, so it's over 4 times higher than where we are as of right now. That's not even a year ago. Like, October was not a year ago, right? And still, we are over 4 times lower than that. Is October of 2025 an altcoin season? No. Polkadot was considered a little bit bearish at that time, but that, if anything, kind of showcases just how low we've gone so far. So if DOT goes back to that, again, if DOT just goes back to a previously considered bearish point at around $4.50, we're already over 4 times lower than that as of right now. In which case, Bitcoin is not 4 times lower than its all-time high. Neither is Ethereum, by the way. It's just not. For Bitcoin and Ethereum to be around 4 times lower than its all-time high, they would have to go significantly lower than where they are as of right now. That's just the case. DOT does not need to do that. DOT, let alone its all-time high, it's over 40 times lower than that. DOT is over 4 times lower than back in October 2025. So again, if things could recover, I'm going to Sizzler, the restaurant. But it really depends, right? It requires me waiting, maybe, but I'll gladly wait. But I'm not telling anyone to do anything. But if you ask Warren Buffett if he likes the dip, for some cases, he'd probably say yes. Like in the case of Apple, or let's say Coca-Cola, he'd probably like that because take a look at how well Berkshire Hathaway has done with Apple, for instance. So it really depends. But being at its all-time low, it's not necessarily alarming or concerning for me, because if the market could hypothetically take off, or maybe just return back to October 2025 levels, I'm already going to Sizzler, the restaurant. Or maybe Chili's, or maybe Applebee's, Olive Garden, whatever the case may be. But I'm just saying, it's just a figure of speech. However, I'll keep everyone updated and posted as to what goes on when it comes to Polkadot, but I'll still document my journey along the way. So I want to say thank you so much for watching today's video. I greatly appreciate it, and I hope you all have a very nice day.